Hey guys, what is up? This is Max Davis, me once again. Welcome back to another movie review, aka After I Saw this time, and it's going to be on Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. Now, this movie literally takes place after the events of the first movie, which came out 7 years ago, but it's taking place a day after the events of the first film, where Samara Weaving's character meets up with their sister, and both of them end up in a new game of cat and mouse with 4 different families, and they have to survive in order to make it out in the end, or else they become part of a ritual that they are doing. And they have to kill them before, well, you know, it's very similar to like what happened with the first movie. And I love the first movie. The first movie was a surprise hit, both critically and financially, on such a small budget of just $6 million. It managed to make a big enough profit to warrant a sequel, which I didn't really feel like was necessary because the first movie I felt like was great in its own right and didn't really need to expand upon that. But if they wanted to do a franchise, then okay. I mean, it's from the same directors, Radio Silence, who have been making a lot of movies, after that, with Scream 5, 6, and Abigail, which pretty much explains why they didn't do Scream 7, though it was other reasons as well. But I felt like, if they were the directors, Scream 7 would have been, well, whatever. Scream 7, I wasn't a fan. So, yeah. Now, this movie, I feel like it's in the same sense of how I felt about Black Phone 2. It was a good sequel, but didn't really need to be made. So yeah, that kind of gives away how I felt about this movie. But look, I liked the movie. I didn't love it, but I kind of expected not to love it as much as the first one, because where the first one was very smart when it came to its premise about being a game of cat and mouse, but it had a lot of meaning behind it. It was fun, it was a roller coaster ride of pure mayhem, but also had a really good commentary about being a new part of the family. And when it came to that, it made for a very fun ride, but also, well, what I just said. This movie doesn't really have that same, perspective as that, because while there is some elements of, well, I can't really get into spoilers, but the thing is, this movie isn't nearly as creative or inventive as that previous film, and because we already knew what happened in the previous film, it kind of gives away of what to expect from this film if you've seen the original, because a lot of things that happened in the first film happen here as well, but I feel like one of the movie's biggest strengths is Samara Weaving. She was great in the first movie, and she definitely is here. Every single line of dialogue that she has to deliver, she manages to deliver, as well as her sister, played by Kathryn Newton. She's also really good. Their chemistry is kind of like, they're arguing because they haven't seen each other in a long time, and they bicker a lot until they eventually, agree to work together to, survive. So that was one of the movie's biggest weaknesses for me, because I didn't really care much about that aspect, especially since, she's coming in right now. And, there's all this talk about, how they haven't seen each other in a really long time, and yada, yada, yada. But of course, they have to work together. They have to survive. That was one of the weaker parts for me. And another thing about this is that the main ritual that these people are trying to do isn't as creative as in the first one, as I didn't really care about all the satanicness that they're trying to do, as I've seen it in other types of movies when it comes to rituals and all that. Ultimately, for me, it just feels like, a film that focuses a lot more on entertainment, and it definitely does a good job on that aspect. The kills are brutal, they are bloody, they are a lot of fun, and they added a lot more kills this time around, because there are so many different characters this time around. There are some really good supporting roles like Elijah Wood, and David Cronenberg actually makes a pretty cool appearance in this one as well. So yeah, oftentimes, while I wasn't like fully invested of, where the story will lead like I was in the first film, because the first film was unpredictable. It could go in any specific direction, but I felt like as the film progressed in this one, because it has the similar, idea going for it, just like in the first, I just feel like there are times where I knew where specific scenes were going to go. Not all the time. Towards the end, it definitely had some things that I wasn't entirely expecting, but ultimately, by the end, I feel like this is just a film specifically for a turn-your-brain-off experience, while the first movie, you could have fun with that movie, but I feel like you should still have your brain on for where the idea of the film was going for. So in the end, guys, I enjoyed Ready or Not 2 just fine, but it's not nearly as good as the first one. The intelligence behind the first film definitely isn't as present in here this time around, as it's going for, let's do a sequel, but let's make things similar to the first film, but not make it like the first film, but at the same time, do make it like the first film. So I feel like it's kind of, another sequel that has the excuse to exist because the first film was successful. As, of course, no surprise, it didn't make nearly as much as Project Hail Mary, but that was to be expected. Ultimately, I can definitely say you might be ready for this one, but I'm not sure if you should go, super fast to this one. Ultimately, it's one of those decent sequels, just not as rewatchable as its predecessor, but still solid enough. It could have been a little bit lower, but ultimately, there wasn't too much bad in this movie for me to, flat out hate it or consider it bad. I would rather watch this than Scream 7, so there's that at least. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and maybe subscribe for more. You can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or maybe Blue Sky. Links are in the description, and I'll see you guys later. Word out.